Today, we have an incredibly important conversation, one that sits at the heart of Australia's new social media age delay law coming into effect as we speak. Joining me is Mia Bannister, founder of Ollie's Echo. Mia has courageously channeled unimaginable grief into national advocacy after losing her 14-year-old son Ollie to suicide. Mia, thank you for being here today.
Oh, Renee, thank you so much for having me today. What a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Of course. For those meeting you for the first time, could you begin by sharing a little about Ollie, who he was, and what you want people to know about him?
Oh, of course. I love talking about Ollie, and he was my only child, and he was my world, and everyone who knows me and knew Ollie will tell you that. And it was just the two of us, and he was a bright, curious, and had a really dry sense of humor. He was deeply sensitive. He had a mop of red curls that everybody remembers him for, and he rocked it. It was just beautiful. He cared about fairness and protecting others. And sometimes, probably, I think more than he cared about himself. And I want people to know that he wasn't a statistic or a headline. He was a beautiful, beautiful boy who should still be here today. And every single thing that I'm doing now is to simply honor who he was and to make sure that other families don't face what I did.
You've bravely spoken about the circumstances around Ollie's death. What elements of that journey feel important to you to share now, especially now that the conversation about online safety is front and center in Australia?
Well, I think what feels most important rather, is honesty. So Ollie's anorexia was triggered by the absence and torment from a parent, an absent parent, and the social media poured fuel on that fire. So he was bullied both in person and online, told to kill himself on Snapchat by two so-called friends, and exposed to harmful content that he should never have seen. So it wasn't about one moment in time. It was a system that failed to protect a vulnerable child. And that's exactly why this conversation matters so much today.
You've said before that what happened to Ollie wasn't an isolated tragedy. So, how did you come to recognize that this experience reflected a much bigger systemic failure in how these platforms treat children?
Parents everywhere are describing the same patterns: algorithms pushing harmful content, bullying that never switches off, and platforms that are designed to keep kids online at any cost. So they're not accidents. They're features of a system that treats children as data points, like humans, and they're there to monetize our children.
Yeah. You go into schools around the country and you speak to young people, you speak to parents and educators about Ollie's life, and you engage in meaningful conversations about body image, self-esteem, mental health. So I'm interested to know, what are the common challenges that you're hearing that young people are facing today, and how does this new law help address them?
I hear the same themes everywhere that I go. Pressure to look a certain way, comparison, fear of missing out, cyberbullying, online porn, and this sense of never ever being able to switch off. And so at one of the schools that I spoke at last, I asked a couple of young students what they would miss most about the social media platforms they used. And one of them said, I think the messaging, because that's how we communicate with one another. But now we can communicate face to face. Isn't that better? And I looked at her and I said, well, that's a thought, isn't it? And gave her a smile, and she gave me a big hug, because that's our kids have lost how to communicate with one another. And it's proven, and there's research around this now, that it's the loneliest generation that we have now bred. So, this law, or delay, as we like to call it, creates a much needed buffer. It takes the pressure off children to navigate an adult digital world before their brains, boundaries, and sense of self are formed. I think it is so, so important.
I agree. I think it's so important as well. We've been seeing, and I know you've been seeing a lot of this as well, a lot of commentary around, some around this new law, the age delay, some supportive, a lot of it is supportive. Some of it is deeply misinformed and some outright fear-mongering.
Yeah.
Some are suggesting this law will make the internet more dangerous for young people, or it should be the responsibility of parents to police their children's access to online content. What would you say to those criticisms?
Well, I've had so much hate and negativity, seeing I've put myself out there and Ollie's story out in the public domain. And parents absolutely play a role, but they can't outparent an unregulated multi-billion dollar industry. We don't say parents should be solely responsible for road safety, food safety, seat belts. There are guardrails around these things for a reason, and children deserve those guardrails. The law gives parents support to say not yet. And parents need to be present for their kids. So maybe they need to step off their devices and model good digital behavior themselves. We're not asking parents to be perfect. What we're saying is parents need to be present.
Absolutely.
Mm.
We hear a bit about digital ID as well. Like some critics believe that this new law will require everyone to provide digital ID and argue that age verification is just surveillance disguised as safety. What are your thoughts on that?
We had a chat about this the other day, Renee, when we
We
caught
did.
up. So, we already verify ages for alcohol, gambling, rentals, even movies. So age assurance can be done in privacy protecting ways, right? So many countries are already proving that now. The real surveillance has been happening for years. Platforms are already tracking children's behavior and serving them targeted content. So, this law unwinds that. So, for me, you've got parents saying, oh, I don't want my child handing over their passport or their ID. I'm sorry. Those digital platforms already know everything there is to know about your child, even when they sign up for a new PlayStation game, the questions that they're asked. So, it's already out there.
Exactly. There's also a belief that this law is too extreme, but parents like you know the stakes. So, what do
Mhm.
people need to understand again about the risks that children under 16 face on these platforms?
Well, the law gives me hope that we're finally shifting responsibility back onto the platforms, which is where it should have been. And I'm really hopeful because Australians are waking up to the idea that children's wellbeing online is a public health issue. It's not a parenting critique. So, it gives me hope that by this happening, that us too as parents are going to be present and there for our children. It's there for protection. It's not government control.
Yeah, well said.
Which I hear a lot of. It's the
Yeah,
government telling us how to parent our kids. Well, we still have to parent our children. We're
exactly.
just given a guideline now and something to draw a line in the sand to say not yet, not
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. It's a huge milestone. I'm really proud that Australia is leading the way in this space, but it's not the end of the work, is it? So let's talk about prevention and community. What else needs to
Yeah.
happen to better protect kids in the years ahead?
Yeah, well, we need independent enforcement, better education in schools, greater transparency from platforms, ongoing regulation that actually keeps pace with technology. Now we're seeing AI being developed and we're trying to deal with how do we enforce and protect our children from that. Not just children, but adults as well. And importantly, we need proper mental health support for our young people who have already been impacted. So whilst I think this legislation is fantastic, I think in some regards we have left it a bit late because we've been looking for that government support as to how to talk to our children. What are those conversations? And the government's done a great job at getting the legislation across the line, and this is not a criticism at all. It was across the line in December last year, but we really needed to be starting these conversations in January, not a couple of months out. So, I think we are going to see kids throwing tantrums. We're going to see kids, crying in their bedrooms. We're going to see all sorts of poor behavior. But short-term gain, short-term pain, long-term gain, it's going to make such a difference in their lives.
When people hear Ollie's name in this national conversation, what do you most want them to hold on to?
Mm. I want them to remember Ollie's kindness, his humor, his heart, and the idea that one child's life can echo into something bigger. And if hearing Ollie's name helps protect another child, then his story is still shaping the world in the way that he would have wanted.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for taking the time to share your story, Mia. Your advocacy has been central to the national movement calling for better protections for children. And I know I'm not alone in feeling incredibly grateful for all that you've done and all that you continue to do.
Oh, thanks, Renee. And look, it's not just me. I've got to throw it out there that it has been an absolute chorus of voices singing off that same song sheet. Individuals, and I am going to name them like Emma Mason, Rob Evans, um, oh, so many of us, Kelly and Matt O'Brien, just screaming for change. And I think when we all stand together, that's when change will happen. So we are standing together and the change is happening. So, and for the best, you know, I know a lot of the kids think it's not for the best, but it is. Their brains aren't developed enough yet to know what is best for them. We're their parents. We do know what's best.
Exactly. Before we say goodbye, I want people to know where they can find out more about your work, where can they follow you, where can they support you.
Okay, so we have a website, www.olliesecho.org.au. So you can follow us on and contact us through the website. Yeah, we've also got Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as well. So you can follow us on all of those platforms. Again, Ollie's Echo Pathways to Prevention. Um, and we're out there. We're out there changing the narrative, raising awareness, advocating for more research around these issues of eating disorders, social media, and mental health. So reach out if you want to chat, or just go and follow Ollie's story.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Mia.
Thank you, Renee.